The massive colony ship New Horizon drifted through the dark void of space, its hull gleaming under the distant light of an alien sun. Inside the ship, 50,000 people slept in their cryopods, dreaming of the new world they would soon call home. Captain Lee Jinho stood on the bridge, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the main screen. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Communications Officer Park Mina, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "There are ships out there. Big ones. They just appeared out of nowhere." Lee turned to look at the tactical display. Where empty space had been moments before, now showed dozens of dark ships arranged in perfect formation. They were sleek and dangerous looking, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Sir, they're hailing us," reported Kim Do-yeon, the first officer. His voice carried a note of concern that made everyone on the bridge tense. "Up, put it through," Lee ordered, straightening his uniform. This was humanity's first contact with an alien species, and he wanted to make a good impression. The main screen flickered, and a creature appeared that made several crew members gasp in shock. It had 4 arms, skin like polished metal, and eyes that glowed with an inner fire. When it spoke, its voice was harsh and grating, even through the translation software. "I am Overlord Vexter of the Krillian Hegemony," the alien announced. "You primitive creatures have entered our space without permission. You will surrender your ship immediately, or we will destroy you." Captain Lee felt his heart racing, but he kept his voice calm and professional. "This is Captain Lee Jinho of the Human Colonial Fleet. We come in peace. We had no idea this area belonged to anyone. We're just looking for a place to build a new home." The alien's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. "Peace home. You dare to speak of such things in our presence? You are nothing but animals, who have learned to fly between stars. You exist only because we allow it." "Please," Lee said, trying to keep the conversation peaceful. "We have 50,000 civilians aboard this ship. Families, children. We pose no threat to your empire. Surely we can find a way to coexist." "Coexist?" Vexter's eyes blazed brighter. "There is no coexistence with the hegemony. There is only submission or death. You have 30 seconds to surrender, or we will demonstrate what happens to species who forget their place in the universe." Choi Yuna at the weapons station looked up with fear in her eyes. "Captain, their ships are charging weapons. Energy readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like it." Lee felt sweat beading on his forehead. Behind him, the bridge crew waited for orders. But what orders could he give? The New Horizon was a colony ship, not a warship. It had basic defensive shields and a few small weapons, but nothing that could match the alien fleet surrounding them. "We are not a military vessel," Lee broadcast to the alien ships. "We carry no weapons of war. Our cargo holds are filled with farming equipment, medical supplies, and personal belongings. We are not your enemies." "Enemies?" Vexter seemed amused by the word. "You think too highly of yourselves. Human, you are not our enemies. You are nothing. You are less than nothing. You are an example." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in deadly silence. Song Houn from the sensor station turned to face the captain, her face pale with horror. "Sir, they're not targeting our engines or weapons. They're aiming for the civilian sections, the family quarters, the schools, the hospitals." Lee felt something cold settle in his stomach. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency evacuation. Get everyone to the escape pods now." But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. The alien ships were too close, too fast, and too powerful. The escape pods would be sitting ducks in space. The first energy beam struck the New Horizon like a giant hammer. The ship shuddered and groaned as entire sections were vaporized in an instant. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the vessel as the lights flickered and died. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, reported Kim Do-yeon, his voice strained. "We're losing atmosphere fast. Structural integrity is failing." Another beam hit, then another. The aliens were taking their time, making sure the ship died slowly. Through the chaos, Lee could see the escape pods launching from the dying vessel, only to be picked off one by small fighter craft. "Sir," Park Mina called out, her voice breaking. "The children's section. Direct hit. There are no survivors." Lee closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of 50,000 lives pressing down on him. When he opened them again, his face was set with grim determination. "Activate the emergency beacon," he ordered. "Full power. I want this message to reach Earth, no matter what." As the bridge began to collapse around him, Lee stepped up to the communications console. With the ship dying beneath his feet and alien laughter echoing through space, he spoke his final words into the recorder. "This is Captain Lee Jinho of the colony ship New Horizon. We came in peace, seeking only a new home among the stars. The aliens who destroyed us call themselves the Krillian Hegemony. They murdered 50,000 innocent people, not in war, but as a demonstration of power. Remember us. Remember what they did, and remember this above all else. They struck first." The bridge exploded in a ball of fire, and the New Horizon broke apart, its fragments scattering into the void. In the distance, the alien ships watched with satisfaction as another example was made. Another lesson taught to the galaxy about the price of defying the hegemony. But they had made one critical error. They had left witnesses and they had given humanity something more dangerous than any weapon, a reason to fight. 6 months after the destruction of the New Horizon, the emergency meeting room deep beneath Geneva buzzed with tense energy. The holographic display in the center showed the final moments of the colony ship, reconstructed from data fragments that had taken weeks to decode. Every person in the room had watched it dozens of times. But the horror never lessened. Fleet Admiral Yoon Seo-jin stood at the head of the table, his weathered face showing no emotion as he addressed the assembled leaders of Earth's government. Around him sat the most powerful people in human space, but today they all looked small and frightened. "The message is clear," Admiral Yoon said, his voice cutting through the silence. "The Krillian hegemony has given us 2 choices. Become their slaves or die. There is no third option." President Kang Min-seok leaned forward in his chair. "What about negotiation? Surely there must be some way to reach a peaceful solution." "Sir, we tried that," replied Han Ji-woo, Director of Colonial Affairs. Her eyes were red from crying. Her sister, Park Soo-yang, had been aboard the New Horizon with her twin daughters. "We sent diplomatic messages for months. Their response was always the same: submit or be destroyed." The room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Defense Minister Lim Soyang spoke up, her voice tight with controlled anger. "So what are our options? Military analysis says we're outgunned by thousands to 1. They've been conquering galaxies for over 2,000 years. We've barely had space travel for 50 years. Admiral Yoon nodded grimly. "That's correct. In a straight fight, we would lose. Badly, but..." He paused, looking around the room. "I don't think they understand what they've done." "Explain," ordered President Kang. A new voice spoke from the corner of the room. Nam Ji-hoon, head of strategic planning, was a quiet man who rarely spoke in meetings. But when he did, people listened. "They made a tactical error," Nam said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "They could have demanded our surrender first. Could have shown us recordings of their other victories. Could have given us the chance to submit without bloodshed. And prompted the president, and instead, they chose to murder 50,000 civilians as their opening move. They wanted to terrorize us into giving up without a fight." Nam's voice grew harder. "They clearly don't know much about human psychology." Defense Minister Lim caught on first. "You're saying they picked the wrong approach." "I'm saying they picked the worst possible approach," Nam replied. "Every study we have, every historical example, tells us the same thing. You don't start a war with humans by killing our children. You don't threaten us with extinction and expect us to crawl on our bellies." The room grew very quiet. Admiral Yoon felt something cold and hard settling in his chest. "What are you recommending?" he asked. Nam stood up slowly, his analytical mind already working through possibilities. "Total war. Complete mobilization. Every resource, every person, every idea, focused on one goal: the complete destruction of the Krillian hegemony." "That's suicide," protested Dr. Park Chan-woo from the Science Division. "We can't possibly win against an empire that spans half the galaxy, can't we?" Nam asked quietly. "They've been winning for 2,000 years, using the same tactics: overwhelming force, terror, submission. They've never faced an enemy that refused to give up. They've never fought a species that got more dangerous the more you hurt them." Colonel An Sung-ho from Special Forces leaned forward. "What kind of timeline are we talking about?" "Months, not years," Nam replied. "They're expecting us to either surrender or mount a desperate, conventional defense. Instead, we disappear. We evacuate every human world, go underground, and start hitting them where they don't expect it." Admiral Yoon felt a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale." "Exactly, but not just guerrilla warfare. We use every advantage we have. We're smaller, so we're faster. We're desperate. We're desperate, so we're willing to take risks they wouldn't dream of. We're fighting for survival, so we don't have to worry about preserving our forces for future conflicts." Dr. Shin Ye-jin from Advanced Weapons Research cleared her throat. "Admiral, there are projects we've been working on. Theoretical weapons. Things we never thought we'd actually build." "How theoretical?" Yoon asked. "Gravity bombs that can collapse entire star systems. AI viruses that can turn enemy computers against themselves. Weapons that attack the fundamental forces of physics." Her voice was quiet, almost ashamed. "We've been preparing for this day without realizing it." President Kong looked around the room, seeing the same expression on every face. Fear was transforming into something much more dangerous. "Motion to authorize unrestricted warfare against the Krillian hegemony," he announced. "Full mobilization of all human resources. No limits, no restrictions, no rules of engagement." The vote was unanimous. As the meeting broke up, Admiral Yoon found himself approached by Captain Chen Wubin, a young officer who had lost his entire family in the attack. Admiral, request permission to lead the first strike force. Captain, this isn't going to be like anything we've done before. We're not just fighting a war, we're fighting for the right to exist as a free species. Captain Chun's eyes were cold as winter. Sir, with respect, the Krillians taught us something important when they destroyed the New Horizon. They taught us that mercy is a luxury we can't afford. They want to see what humans are capable of when we're fighting for survival. He turned to look out the window at the stars above. Let's show them. The Krillian patrol fleet, Subjugator's Pride, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima system, expecting to find human ships waiting to surrender. Commander Zathkul sat on his command throne, confident that the inferior humans would finally see reason after months of hiding. Where are they? He growled, studying the empty space around his fleet. Intelligence said the humans were gathering here to discuss surrender terms. His sensor officer looked up nervously. Sir, I'm detecting debris throughout the system. Old battle sites, but no active ships. Commander Zathkul felt a flicker of unease. The humans had been silent for weeks after their initial defeat. Transmissions, no diplomatic messages, no signs of military activity. It was exactly what he expected from a broken species. Scan everything, he ordered. I want to know what happened here. But the attack came before his sensors could complete their sweep. Human ships appeared from everywhere at once, materializing from behind asteroids, from within debris clouds, even from positions that seemed impossible. These weren't the same vessels the Krillians had studied in their intelligence reports. Captain Chen Wubin stood on the bridge of the stealth destroyer, Silent Vengeance, watching his tactical display with cold satisfaction. His ship had been drifting powerless for 3 days, hidden among the wreckage of an old mining station. All units, this is Ghost Leader. He spoke into his com. Remember why we're here. Remember the New Horizon. No prisoners, no mercy. The human ships moved like nothing the Krillians had ever seen. Instead of forming neat battle lines, they swarmed like angry insects, each vessel following its own chaotic path. Some attacked from above, others from below, and several came straight at the Krillian ships in what looked like suicide runs. Lieutenant Commander Beak Soman coordinated the assault from her position aboard the tactical cruiser Retribution. Her voice was calm and professional as she issued orders. Alpha Squadron, target their command ship with the new weapons. Beta Squadron, take out those escort vessels. Charlie Squadron, prepare for ramming speed if any try to escape. The Silent Vengeance fired its quantum torpedoes at the nearest Krillian destroyer. The weapons didn't explode like normal missiles. Instead, they created perfect spheres of nothingness where they hit, simply erasing sections of the enemy ship from existence. Commander Zathkul watched in horror as his escort vessels began disappearing piece by piece. What kind of weapons are those? He demanded. Unknown technology, sir, his tactical officer replied, fear creeping into his voice. They're not destroying our ships, they're making them cease to exist. The human tactics made no sense to the Krillian strategic computers. When human ships took damage, instead of retreating to repair, they would ram enemy vessels at full speed. Their crews would eject in escape pods at the last second, turning their ships into guided missiles. Captain Kim Doyon piloted his damaged frigate Vengeance's edge directly at a Krillian heavy cruiser. His engines were failing and his weapons were offline, but his ship still had momentum. This is for Captain Lee and the New Horizon. He broadcast on all frequencies as his ship slammed into the enemy vessel's bridge section. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire, but the human escape pods had already launched, their crews ready to be picked up by other vessels. The Krillians fought back with their superior firepower, but the human ships refused to behave like any enemy they had encountered before. Every vessel seemed expendable, every crew willing to die, and their strategies followed no logical pattern. Sir, they're not trying to preserve their forces, reported the Krillian sensor operator. They're trying to cause maximum damage regardless of their own losses. Commander Zathkul felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of warfare. Fear. How many ships have we lost? 12 vessels destroyed. Sir, 6 more heavily damaged. But the humans have only lost 8 ships. 8 ships. Zathkul couldn't believe it. His fleet was 3 times larger and infinitely more advanced. How is that possible? Through the chaos of battle, a human transmission cut through all the interference. Captain Chen's voice was cold and clear. Krillian fleet, this is Captain Chen Wubin of the Human Resistance. You came here expecting to find beaten animals ready to surrender. Instead, you found predators. Your empire made one fatal mistake when it destroyed the New Horizon. The Silent Vengeance emerged from a debris cloud, its hull scarred but its weapons still functional. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You showed us that the only language you understand is violence. So we learned your language. Captain Chen's ship fired its remaining torpedoes at the Krillian command vessel. This is humanity's response to your demonstration of power. The torpedoes struck the subjugator's Pride along its entire length, creating a chain reaction of explosions. That tore the massive ship apart. Commander Zathgul had just enough time to send a final transmission before his bridge was consumed by fire. Command, this is Zathgul, the humans, ... They're not what we expected. They fight like demons. They're willing to die for... The transmission cut off as the command ship broke apart. When the battle ended 23 minutes later, debris from 16 Krillian warships drifted through the Proxima system. The human fleet had lost 9 ships, but every surviving crew member was already preparing for the next strike. Admiral Park Hein-Woo received the battle report aboard his command ship Indomitable. His aide, Commander Oh Jaejeon, looked up from the tactical display with something approaching. Ah, sir. The Krillians are mobilizing massive reinforcements. They're treating this as a major threat now. Admiral Park's smile was cold and sharp. Good. Let them bring everything they have. It's time to show them what happens when you pick a fight with a species that has nothing left to lose. He turned to stare out at the stars, each one representing a potential battlefield in humanity's war for survival. Signal all fleets. Phase 2 begins immediately. Target their supply lines, their shipyards, their communication networks. No Krillian installation is safe. No Krillian ship is sacred. The war had truly begun. The emergency session of the Krillian High Command took place in the deepest bunker of their homeworld, surrounded by shields and defenses that had protected the Empire for 1,000 years. Supreme Overlord Kethver stared at the tactical displays with growing horror as red markers spread across the galaxy like a disease. Explain this to me, he demanded, his 4 arms gesturing at the chaos on the screens. How has one primitive species caused this much damage in just 4 months? War Marshal Vothkin stepped forward, his usual confidence replaced by barely controlled panic. My lord, the humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered. They have abandoned all conventional military doctrine. The holographic display shifted to show the Zarian system, where the Empire's largest shipyards had once produced hundreds of warships each year. Now only twisted metal and debris floated in space. They seeded the entire system with gravity bombs. The war continued. When our defensive fleets arrived, the humans activated all the devices at once. The gravitational waves tore our ships apart from the inside. How many ships did we lose? Kethver asked quietly. The entire 9th Fleet, my lord. 300 vessels, including our newest dreadnoughts. Kethver felt something cold in his chest. The 9th Fleet had been one of their most powerful forces, and our response. We sent the 7th Fleet to attack their Mars colony, to show them the price of resistance. Vothkin's voice grew strained. The colony was empty. They had evacuated everyone. But when our ships entered orbit, the display showed the final moments of another Krillian fleet. Proud warships being systematically destroyed by planetary defense systems that seemed to predict their every move. They turned their entire world into a trap. The War Marshal finished. They sacrificed their own planet to destroy our fleet. Across the galaxy, Admiral Quan Taiyang stood in the command center of the mobile fortress Prometheus, watching as his officers coordinated attacks on dozens of Krillian targets simultaneously. The massive ship was humanity's new mobile command base. Built from salvaged alien technology and powered by human ingenuity. Status report. He requested. Captain Yuhana looked up from her station. Sir, the Krillian 4th and 6th fleets are moving to retake the weapons facility at Kepler Station. They're bringing everything they have. Perfect, Admiral Quan replied with a cold smile. Colonel On Sung-ho, are your people in position? From across the command center, the special operations leader nodded grimly. My infiltration teams have been inside that facility for 3 weeks. Sir, the Krillians have no idea we're there. Dr. Lee Myung from the Psychological Warfare Division approached with her latest intelligence report. Admiral, we've been monitoring Krillian communications. Their propaganda is backfiring badly. How so? They're trying to portray us as defeated terrorists, but their own reports keep mentioning our victories. Their population is starting to ask questions about why an inferior species is winning so many battles. Admiral Quan nodded with satisfaction. Fear was humanity's greatest weapon now, and it was spreading through the Krillian Empire like wildfire. Sir, interrupted Commander Kim Sora, we're receiving reports from the liberation fleets. The Altarian colonies have declared independence, and they're sharing intelligence about Krillian military positions. The vegan systems are requesting human military advisors. Excellent. What about the other enslaved species? They're watching and waiting. If we can prove that the Krillian Empire can be defeated, we'll have allies throughout the galaxy. Back on the Krillian homeworld, Supreme Overlord Kethver received the report he had been dreading. His intelligence chief Nextel entered the chamber with news that would change everything. My Lord Nextel began carefully. We have confirmed reports of massive uprisings in the outer territories. 17 systems have declared independence in the past week alone. Crush them, Kethver ordered automatically. Sir, we cannot. Our fleets are stretched too thin fighting the humans. Every time we move ships to suppress a rebellion, the humans attack somewhere else. They seem to know our movements before we make them. The Supreme Overlord felt the weight of 2,000 years of empire pressing down on him. How is this possible? We are the hegemony. We have ruled this galaxy since before these humans learned to use fire. My Lord Nextall said quietly, I believe they have infiltrated our command structure. How else could they anticipate our strategies so perfectly? The truth was simpler than the Krillians could imagine. Lieutenant Park Dong-yoon sat in a captured Krillian communication station, wearing the uniform of a dead enemy officer. Around him, human technicians worked at Krillian computers, their alien equipment jury-rigged with human modifications. Sir, one of the technicians reported, we're intercepting all their fleet movements in real time. They're planning to hit the Rigel system next. Perfect, Lieutenant Park replied. Send word to Admiral Kwan. We'll be ready for them. The communication station was one of dozens that humans had captured and converted, creating a spy network that stretched across the galaxy. Every Krillian order, every troop movement, every strategic decision was being monitored by human intelligence. The final blow came when Dr. Shin Yejin successfully deployed her latest creation, an AI virus that could rewrite Krillian computer systems from the inside. Within hours, Krillian ships began turning their weapons on each other, their computers convinced that their allies were enemies. Supreme Overlord Kethfer watched his empire collapse in real time as the tactical displays showed defeat after defeat. Finally, he did something no Krillian leader had done in 2 millennia. Open a channel to the human fleet, he ordered. War Marshal Vothkin stared at him in shock. My lord, surely you're not considering ... I am considering survival, Kethfer replied coldly. These humans have proven they can destroy us. Perhaps it is time to negotiate. The transmission went out across space, reaching Admiral Kwan aboard the Prometheus. The human admiral listened to the Krillian request for peace talks, then responded with words that would echo through galactic history. You struck first, he said simply. Now we finish it. The final confrontation took place not in the fire of battle, but in the cold silence of space above the Krillian homeworld. Supreme Overlord Kethfer stood alone in his massive throne room, watching through the transparent walls as human ships surrounded his planet like silent guardians of death. Fleet Admiral Yoon Seok-jin appeared as a hologram before the alien ruler, his image flickering with the energy of the long-distance transmission. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship Indomitable hummed with quiet activity as officers monitored the final stages of their campaign. Supreme Overlord, Admiral Yoon, began, his voice carrying the authority of 8 months of total war. I am here to discuss the terms of your surrender. Kethfer's forearms trembled with rage and desperation. Surrender, look around you. Human, my homeworld has orbital defense platforms that could destroy your entire fleet. I have millions of ground troops, thousands of ships in reserve. Head, Admiral Yoon corrected gently. Your orbital platforms were disabled 4 hours ago by our infiltration teams. Your reserve fleets have been dealing with uprisings across 43 star systems, and your ground troops, he paused to check a datapad, are currently fighting fires in 62 major cities, thanks to weapons supplied by your former slaves. The Supreme Overlord stared at the human admiral, finally understanding that his empire was already dead. This is impossible. You are one species, one world. We have ruled this galaxy for 2,000 years, and in 10 months, humanity has torn down everything you built. Admiral Yoon replied, not through superior numbers or better technology, but through something you never understood, which is the difference between ruling through fear and fighting for freedom. The admiral's expression grew hard. You demanded submission. We earned loyalty. You saw other species as property to be owned. We see them as allies to be liberated. Behind Admiral Yoon, Captain Lim Haijin approached with the latest reports. Sir, the Altarian fleet has arrived to assist with peacekeeping operations. At the end, Vegan Coalition is requesting permission to establish new governments. The Rigelian delegation wants to discuss joining our alliance. The Supreme Overlord felt the last of his hope crumble. What do you want from us? Simple terms. Admiral, Yoon replied, complete dissolution of the Krillian hegemony, immediate release of all enslaved species, total dismantling of your military forces, and the establishment of a new galactic government based on cooperation, not conquest. And if I refuse, Admiral Yoon's expression didn't change. Then tomorrow morning, there won't be a Krillian military left to refuse anything. The transmission ended, leaving Kethfer alone with the weight of a dying empire. 20-4 hours later, the surrender was complete. Across the galaxy, Krillian military bases shut down their weapons and opened their doors to liberation forces. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved species walked free for the first time in generations. Ambassador Han Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of the new galactic peacekeeping station, built from the remains of the Krillian High Command Center. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of species working together to build something that had never existed before, a truly free galaxy. It's ironic, observed Director Nam Ji-hoon, joining her at the window. The built this system to project their power across the stars. Now it serves as the headquarters for an organization dedicated to making sure no one ever accumulates that kind of power again. Ambassador Han nodded, thinking of her sister and the 50,000 innocent people who had died aboard the New Horizon. Do you think they would approve of what we've built? I think they would be proud. Director Nam replied. Their deaths weren't meaningless. They started something that changed the entire galaxy. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. The holographic display showed Admiral Park Hyunwoo aboard the patrol ship Guardian's Watch. Ambassador, we have a situation in the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking merchant vessels. They're using old Krillian weapons and threatening to restart the Empire. Ambassador Han straightened, her expression growing cold. Response time, 20 minutes for our patrol fleet. But I'm also showing Altarian ships in the area, plus a vegan defense squadron. Coordinate with our allies, she ordered. And Admiral, make sure those pirates understand the new rules. The age of conquest is over. Peace is not optional anymore. As the transmission ended, Ambassador Han returned to watching the ships move through space. Former enemies working side by side, former slaves now free to chart their own destiny, and humanity standing watch to ensure the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. In the depths of space, a memorial beacon continued its eternal broadcast from the debris field that had once been the New Horizon. Its message served as both warning and promise to anyone who might be listening. Here died 50,000 souls who came in peace. They were murdered for the crime of existing free. We remember them, we honor them. We ensure their sacrifice was not in vain. This is humanity's promise to the galaxy. Threaten the innocent, disturb the peace we have built, attack those who cannot defend themselves, and learn why the Krillian hegemony exists only in history books. Captain Chen Wubin read the memorial's message from the bridge of his new ship, the New Horizon 2, named in honor of those who had died. Around him, his mixed crew of humans and former Krillian slaves worked together, preparing for their next patrol mission. Sir, his Altarian navigator reported, we're receiving a distress call from the Tau system. Unknown ships attacking a civilian transport. Captain Chen's eyes grew cold. Set course immediately, and send a message to those attackers. Surrender, now, or face the consequences. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Touch humanity's people, threaten the peace they had built, and discover why an empire that had ruled for 2 millennia was now nothing but dust and memory. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of freedom had begun.